The people are looking forward to the 8th of May with a great deal of enthusiasm, and the indications that they've been giving us, which we are hopeful for, is that they are going to vote for the ANC. So the support for the ANC is there, it's deep, it resides in their hearts.
Ramaphoria and the new dawn. If recent polls are to be believed, President Cyril Ramaphosa is more popular than his party. But will brand Ramaphosa save a beleaguered ANC from a loss of support in the coming elections? Tonight we speak to Makosini Mkitwa, a public relations strategist. With him in studio, joining me as well as Professor Susan Boyson, Director of the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Let me start with you, Makosini. Were you surprised, firstly, at this leaked internal poll which suggested that the president was more popular than his own party? 73% for the president and 60% for the ANC.
No, I was not surprised. In the run-up to the ANC presidential election, surveys were conducted which showed that the majority of ANC supporters were concerned about the corruption that was prevailing at the time and also the impunity that came with it. And so President Ramaphosa ran on the issue of corruption, and even now his campaign as president of the ANC now campaigning for this forthcoming election is on corruption, and he has taken steps like correcting problems within the NPA. In fact, all of the security cluster departments that would deal with corruption, they are being strengthened. So I think trust in the public, in the president, is high, but trust in the ANC. If you look at the history of the ANC in the past 9 years, the motions of no confidence against the president that they opposed, and the support that they were giving to the president, now you have the former president, now you have Cyril Ramaphosa actually saying that is in the past, we're looking to a brighter future. So I'm not surprised that people will trust him more than they trust the ANC at this time.
Party itself. Now, Professor, obviously those people who trust the president will go out and vote for the president. So do you see the ANC gaining as a whole come May the 8th?
That is a vexed question, because those votes the support for President Ramaphosa will not automatically and necessarily translate into support for the ANC. A large proportion of those supporters will actually be voting for the ANC. And here we have to remember, in the pre-Nasrec polls, the ANC was polling below 50%, incredible national opinion polls at that stage. And so without Cyril Ramaphosa having slipped in on the mandate of corruption, without him having gained the reputation of being almost single-handedly able to defeat former President Zuma and the corruption associated with so many of the state institutions, the ANC would not nearly have been polling whatever percentage it is now, and lower than President Ramaphosa, but he has made the big difference. But nothing is automatic. So many new scandals unfold, so many new revelations, for example, Zondo Commission, so much dissent within the ANC. So there's a lot of hard work that remains in order to convert it.
There really is, Makosini, when you look at the fact that the president is just one man. The same players are still in government, that a lot of these, all of these malfeasance took place under so many people that are still within government. Do you think people will take cognizance of that fact?
You know, I think there are voters who will think there's President Ramaphosa, the ANC president is the most powerful politician in the country, that like Thabo Mbeki, he will be able to pull the ANC and take it where he wants to take it. But also there are people who would be cognizant of the fact that David Mabuza is a heartbeat away from the presidency. Right? And there are a lot of people who would be uncomfortable with that. If you look at what is coming out of, that was reported, I think, by the New York Times, also, the things that are coming out of Mpumalanga. So I think there are people who may think that, yes, Cyril Ramaphosa is promising, but putting all our eggs in one basket, that is Cyril Ramaphosa, who is a human being, anything can happen to him. And if anything happens to him, David Mabuza is your Mr. President. Maybe let's, vote for other parties that would be able to keep the ANC in check.
But they may also say, let's strengthen his hand by voting for him.
There are people who are saying, like the Peter Bruce, for instance, the famous journalist, is one of the people who are saying that. But equally, there are people who are saying, if you give Cyril Ramaphosa, if you vote for Cyril Ramaphosa, you're not voting for the man, you're voting for the ANC, and the ANC can take... I mean, Julius Malema, and I must say, he is just, trying to confuse the voters not to vote for the ANC, but he's saying the ANC will remove Cyril Ramaphosa. And that is going to have an impact on certain people who will think voting for Cyril Ramaphosa is actually voting for the same ANC, that hasn't transformed itself.
Professor, I know you want to come in here.
Yes, certainly. I completely agree. Plus the few other points. Cyril Ramaphosa could actually be strengthened electorally through this image of being the underdog, being under siege, that people would really want to go in and defend this president and strengthen his hand. So, yes, that debate can swing both ways. And even if they say, yes, that he's threatened in this position, that people want to remove him, that could actually count in his favor.
Now, Professor, does it also count in his favor that big business seems to like him a lot? He speaks their language.
Well, yes, I think that does benefit him. And because South Africa, whether we like it or not, whether it's too liberal for many of us or not, this is the international economic environment in which South Africa operates. It needs investment. It needs international cooperation.
Yeah.
And Cyril Ramaphosa's big task after this election will be to find some wise middle ground to bring the need for more radical policy, the need to ensure that 25 years of democracy is not just a decorative constitution, but it actually makes a change on the ground, to combine that with the business approach.
Now, Makosini, when we look at the fact that big business, or the perception that big business loves President Ramaphosa, that kind of plays into those who are saying, listen, we're saying this is just too liberal for our liking, and we're selling out the country to big business and so forth.
South Africa is a very polarized society, polarized according to race and polarized according to class. If you drive from Johannesburg to Pretoria, on your left, there are skyscrapers almost touching the sky, glass buildings, and you look to the right is Alexandra. So it's not always a plus that business supports you. Business doesn't have that much of a big voter base. It's people who are being, radicalized because they see lack of transformation.
Yeah.
That are not necessarily going to see him as the person who can change the situation. And also, I don't think that he's been helping himself by constantly being shocked by poverty.
Yes.
And to his credit, I mean, he is a billionaire. He's been wealthy for a long time. I don't think that he is that much in touch with, the difficulties of the people on the ground. But I think he's honest enough to say, I didn't know that things are this bad. Now, either out of that shock comes action, or there is no action. If there's action, then it's okay for him to be shocked. Yes.
Professor, there's a perception at the moment when you look at the corruption allegations against Ace Magashule that the president doesn't have as much power as he should have within the ANC. Do you think that might be a little bit of a problem when it comes to the polls?
I certainly think it's a very important factor, and many people will consider that when they decide whether or not to vote for the ANC, because at this stage the two factions are so evenly balanced that people may vote ANC but do not know which ANC they're actually voting for or which ANC they could get after the election. But then this other debate gets in.
But does an ordinary person really think that deep as quickly as you can for me?
I think there is honestly a wide-ranging consciousness, especially amongst political classes, that is a big factor and it is important. And people, of course, it also has implications for corruption, fighting corruption.
Yeah.
And ordinary people on the ground really have a serious sense that money eaten by the politicians means less policy going towards them, less food on their table.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for coming through and giving us your opinion. Professor Susan Boyson, Director of the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection. Thank you so much. And, of course, Mokosini Mgichwa, a public relations strategist, as always. Thank you, sir. That's it for our show for tonight. Stay with us, though, because news is up next.